Hey guys, Josh here from MidAmericaCompost.com, bringing you a review today on the Worm Factory 360 from Nature's Footprint. Now there's a lot of great information already online about the Worm Factory 360, but I wanted to give you my take and a review for myself as a commercial worm farmer and hopefully add to what's already out there. Before I get started with some of the components you'll receive when you purchase the Worm Factory 360, I'd like to start by saying this type of worm bin is what I refer to as a migratory tray system. So with the migratory tray system worm bin, it's built on the concept that worms will migrate upwards when new food is placed on their already existing habitat. Starting off with some of the components you'll receive when you purchase the Worm Factory 360, you have a collection base, which includes a drainage valve for any excess moisture that may develop in your system. Now the drainage valve should be in the open position and it'll flow into what's called the sprinkler tray. Your sprinkler tray will live right underneath your collection base with the drainage valve in the open position, just like that. Now, another thing to note about this collection base is I've had as many as 8 trays stacked up on this base and as many as 10,000 red wigglers, the Cadillac of worms, and it still supported that weight pretty well. Now, the next item you'll receive is the worm ladder. Now, I know mine's a little bit dirty. I've actually been running this worm bin for about the past 2 years. It rests right inside the collection base, just like that. So jumping into the meat and potatoes of this system, you have your first tray. You're going to start with your first tray right on top of the worm ladder in the collector bin. And my advice to you is when you purchase this, one of the great things it comes with is Nature's Footprint has provided a complete guide to vermicomposting. Stick to this guide the best you can, follow it to a T if you have to, in getting this first tray started. So now it's been a couple of weeks and you've added some of your other trays to the system. What you're after is this first tray. So with getting this bottom tray, you're looking at a time frame of about 90 days before you're ready to harvest. So after 90 days, you harvest that bottom tray and then you clean it out, you just put it right back on top and you start the process over again. One of the last components that you receive is the lid. Now the lid's cool for a couple of reasons. One, it allows some airflow, which is critical on this unit. And then also it has some instructions, some quick reference instructions as to what to feed the worms and how to care for them. Temperatures, pH balance, so on. So the lid rests right on top, just like this. And make sure you get it lined up and it should move just a little bit. Again, that's for that airflow. And that's important on this particular type composter. And I would even go as far as to recommend purchasing maybe a small fan or something like that just to keep air flowing over this type of composter. If you do not get that kind of airflow, you run the risk of anaerobic bacteria, and that's where you're going to start to get that foul odor. As long as you've got enough airflow going through this composter, you shouldn't smell anything. If anything, when you open the lid, it'll just smell like fresh dirt. With the wrap up here of the Worm Factory 360, I'd like to recommend this type composter for 3 main reasons. The first one is you are going to learn a ton about red wigglers by utilizing this type of bin. You'll learn about what kind of foods they prefer, what kind of foods they pick over other foods, how long things take to break down. You'll understand how to get some of the best type worm castings that you can get by utilizing this bin. That leads us to our second reason that I'd like to recommend this, and the second reason is you can get great worm castings out of this type of worm composter. Once you get down to that bottom tray and most of the worms have migrated upwards, you're going to be really surprised with the amount of worm castings and the quality of the type of worm castings that you have down in that bottom tray. And then the third reason is the ease of harvesting. So unlike using Rubbermaid totes, those get quite heavy and they don't drain very well. This is a really easy system to harvest those worm castings, what you're looking for your gardening and plants. One other side note I'd like to add, these are priced on Amazon right now between $110 and $140. And I think that's pretty competitive for what you're receiving here. So in the end, stick with the information that you learn about in your vermicomposting guide that comes with the composter, and you should be quite impressed with the Worm Factory 360. MidAmericaCompost.com gives the Worm Factory 360 a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.
We're hooked on you, red wigglers, the Cadillac of worms. The Cadillac of worms.
These are all the components it came with. Obviously it came unassembled, which I'm about to do, and then I already attached the spigot. It's got a scraper and the coil and the newspaper. Looking at the instructions though, they weren't my favorite, but it shows that there's a setup video. So it kind of forces you to look at the setup video though, because some of the pages are upside down, some of them are right side up, and I tried to sit here and figure out, you know, the order that things are supposed to go. I mean, you can figure it out kind of on your own, really, but it's still kind of inconsistent with the printing. You know, like this is the same exact page, and on this side it's right side up, but on this side it's upside down. And I was trying to figure out the order that this was supposed to come in. So, you know, maybe it's me, but it's a little confusing to somebody who doesn't understand the intent of this manual. However, to mitigate that issue, they have an 80-page manual, naturesfootprint.com/WF360.
Forward. So. Pretty crazy, right? New boil right there. Right, so you can see they just freaking love it. So over here, that is another pile of rice, and then that is yesterday was a big pile. It is gone, and now they are right in here. These are all different piles. There's tons of them in here. They're just breeding like crazy. Exactly what I want, really.
Hoy nos encontramos en la Navidad toscana, un Hato Jersey sobresaliente.